Hi, this is really exciting because Alex Phelan has come back to look at the school and say hello. And Alex is just in the midst of something really exciting. Tell us about it.
So I've just found out that I'm a recipient of the John Monash Award, which is a series of scholarships awarded by the Sir John Monash Foundation for postgraduate study anywhere in the world. And so I will be heading off to Washington, D.C., to Georgetown University to go study my doctorate in laws in global health law. Mm-hmm.
You're combining law and medicine. Tell us how that came about.
Well, even when I was here at ELTHAM, I found that I was really interested in the sciences and then the humanities, and I was very lucky in that I never actually had to choose one or the other. I could combine them here at ELTHAM. And I started my biomedical science degree at Monash, and whilst I was there, I was able to continue my Chinese, and then I was also able to combine that with law. So I did a double degree in biomedical science and law, and was always looking at ways of bringing them together. And I started a career as a lawyer and worked for a couple of years, and am now working as a lawyer. But the last year, I've actually been in Geneva. So I was at the World Health Organization in the Human Rights Division there, looking at the right to health, which is mixing international law and health. And then I went to the Gavi Alliance, which is the Global Alliance for Vaccines and Immunisations, and I interned there as legal counsel in the legal department, and then I stayed on for a legal consultancy. So that was, again, applying the real, pure law in a health setting. So hopefully now what I can do with my doctorate is look at the way international law and domestic laws affect human rights and health, and the interplay between them. So.
You're going to be a big person, aren't you? Leave us all behind. Are you continuing with Chinese?
Yeah, one of the exciting things about Georgetown is they actually have a China Health Law Centre, which will be fantastic. I'm really interested in the implications between climate change and international climate change and health, as well as tobacco and health. And I think China is
a lot of business in China.
Yeah, absolutely. So whilst I've been able to continue working with China, so I'm at King & Wood Mallesons, and so we have a very strong China connection. And I work with China every day on matters. Being able to then go into that health and law within a Chinese setting will be fantastic. So.
What would you say to young people, or people younger than you, about the role of China?
Oh, yeah. When I always say one of the best decisions I ever made was sitting in the auditorium here when we had our little checklist of what language to pick, and I picked Chinese. And the reason why it was an incredible decision is not only is China such a growing economic power, but it is incredibly deep and diverse culture that's so different to what I grew up in and the world I grew up in. And so through that, my Chinese opened my eyes to arts as well as a range of languages, history. So there was that, personal satisfaction side of Chinese. There was also the fact that it was very challenging. So I was able to be pushed, and you could take it at which level you wanted to go. Where I find myself now is I'm in a position where Australia's role in Asia Pacific is growing, and our role to engage with China on a range of issues, whether it be political, economic, is just increasing all the time. And having that Chinese skill, even an appreciation for the culture. So there have been people that have come through our group who have only done a little bit of Chinese over the years, but just having that contact with China is invaluable. So even if it is only for a few years, for 7 to 10, or you don't necessarily have to be going on and doing it at university like I did, it is still a really valuable insight into a really important partner of Australia.
Now that took you into being recognised by the previous Premier of China, didn't it?
Well, when I was in my first year of uni, I was selected. There were about 20 students around Australia selected, and we were sent on a delegation, which was the first Premier-invited youth delegation to China. And it's incredible. But the 20 of us who had all grown up, learning Chinese in various environments, being able to go around, meet Australian government as well as Chinese government representatives, and the role of being an ambassador. But that network, even to this day, each one of those people continually bump into them. I was in Geneva with one person who'd been on the delegation the year after. It's incredible to see the networks that you have between Australia and China and young people.
So what advice would you give a 15-year-old in terms of developing a relationship with China?
I think the first step is when it comes to the language side of things, find what aspect of the language interests you and use that to push you. So for me, I love the history of things, and so I would look at the characters and how parts of them made up a word and the history around that and all the different aspects it told me, whereas I know other people love Chinese movies, so they'd watch movies and that was the way they really engaged with it. So find what aspect of it. It could be food, it could be a whole range of things, and use that to drive your interest. I think that's, particularly at 15, it's, there's so much to learn, it can be overwhelming. It's a matter of just, absorbing what you can as you go. And, if there is an opportunity to go to China, absolutely take it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, good. So medicine, law and China, your future's made, isn't it?
Well, I might have to make my own job, which, to be honest, I'm more than happy with, because I ended up making my own degree and, putting things together. And I think... I always was concerned that I'd be channeled into one thing and I'd be forced to pick, but I've been very lucky in that by being passionate and interested about things, I've been able to do a wide variety. And sometimes it does mean taking a leap. For example, going to Geneva was going over there for 6 months unpaid after, a couple of years of work. So there are risks sometimes to take when following your passions and what interests you. But part of the excitement is seeing it all come together, and hopefully now with Georgetown and my doctorate, I can maybe make a job after that. That suits me.
I suspect, Alex, you will make many jobs over the next few years. Can I just bring you back to ELTHAM for a moment? A lot of pressure on schools these days to simply perform in terms of the academic results to get into university. What other things are important about school experience that, say, allowed you to be the successful, exciting, adventurous, risk-taking person that you are?
Well, I think particularly in the later years, it's very easy to feel as though you're being channeled into prerequisites and what subjects are going to be marked up and things like that. And that can be very tough when you're trying to balance, well, what's the smart thing to do versus what's my passion. And actually, they're not a dichotomy. No. You can do both. Yeah. And sometimes it is really good to have a subject that is purely for enjoyment, or a few subjects. So I think, using the opportunity of being in school and in high school to try and see what you enjoy. In terms of the broader environment, ELTHAM's a fantastic place to get involved in music. The music department here was a wonderful outlet for me, and to this day I'm still in contact with people from the music department and still, enjoying the music. Obviously all the sporting facilities, and I think a lot of people don't realise how lucky, you can be to have these sorts of facilities and using them. So, music and sport and those sort of extracurricular activities, as well as getting involved in opportunities that come up. So, there might be a language competition or that sort of thing, I think is really important. For me, I've always found that I love going into representative roles, or roles where I can actually, either make strategy and think of ideas of how to solve problems, or actually bring issues to the table for others that might not have the confidence or otherwise have an opportunity to. And so I think what is fantastic about ELTHAM is the fact that leadership is not only fostered but actually developed, and those skills are really, I think, critical in the long term. And to be honest, whilst academic marks are obviously very important for a number of things, I think those other aspects of my time here at ELTHAM contributed much more to who I am now and what I'm doing now than whether I got this point on my TER or that.
Okay. How did you find the transition
From high school to uni? I was very excited to get to uni, and I think I was ready to go to uni. It can be a transition for a lot of people in that you see people struggle with the self-direction and with the self-directed learning. I found the transition was actually quite smooth, and I think perhaps that was because particularly in our later years 11 and 12 there was a big emphasis on self-responsibility to do that work, and it wasn't guided. And I think I look back now at that transition, particularly in the first year, and for a lot of people it's not necessarily the academics that they struggle with, it's the coming into university life and being a young adult in that environment, being able to make responsible choices whilst also having fun and that balance. And I have to say I think that was interesting to see how people who hadn't had that open learning struggled.
Alex, I've probably got you to talk far too long, but it's been wonderful to see you, and I know our community would say, have a ball at Georgetown, but, make that PhD work for you so that, in 3 years' time it's Alex Phelan, leader of the world. Thanks, Alex.
Thanks, David.
Much appreciated.